Our guest today is a longtime expert on all matters technology. He's worked with everyone from real networks to Wix to you name it. He's been in the high-tech industry for decades. He has just published a groundbreaking report, AI-Driven Avatars, a Market Study. Very happy to bring to the show today. It's one of our special editions of the Digital Doppelganger Show, where we talk about all things related to clones and avatars. My special guest today is Jose Larrucea. Jose, thanks for joining us today. He is head of Economy, which is, yes, a combination of economy and clones. Jose, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much, TJ. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys today. Very, very thrilled.
So what got you excited about digital clones? You've been in the digital space for decades. You've worked with everyone from Wix to real networks. You've worked all over the world. You've worked with startups. You've worked with big companies. Why did you get excited about digital clones?
It's an interesting question, and I think people like you who've been in it, right, and from the beginning, you'll understand. I think the clones, the digital interactive clones, they bring the potential in nowadays that the internet promised back in the 90s, right? It's really the scale to many things, right? And I think, in the study, you'll see verticals from education to business to, tutoring to basically anything that shares wisdom, right? And today there are obviously limitations, and through the clones, you can just break those limits. And I think that's once in a lifetime that is happening right now.
It is very exciting to me. Now, I know you not only write about it, talk about it, you have your own clone, and we'll talk to your clone later on in the program. But first, let's let people take a look at this new report. It's AI-Driven Avatars, a Market Study. Now, this isn't something just slapped together with AI and a couple of bullet points and a PowerPoint thing. This is 88 pages of content. If people want to get it, we're going to link to it, and my colleague Ben, our producer, will post the link in the comments. We'll also post it in the show notes for people who want to get this study. It's coming in, it's filtering in right now, as well as Jose's bio. So let's walk us through the highlights of this study, because you spent countless hours on this, and you were nice enough to include me and interview me and my clone for the study, I should point out.
Exactly.
What surprised you the most? What do you think people are going to grab on? The clone report was just released yesterday, by the way. Right. So this is fresh. You're not going to find more up-to-date information on cloning than this. And I know, because I actually have a Google News alert come to me every day for any story that relates to clone, digital avatars, AI generation, all of these terms. I get it sent to me every single day, and I still learned a lot from your market study, learned about companies I hadn't heard of. So walk us through the report.
So before we go into the nitty-gritty, I mean, the idea is to really shed some light on what this is in general terms, from a general perspective, then drill down into some of the specifics, right? Because I think everybody in the last 24 months has been talking about and hearing about AI and generative AI and, like all the wonders and the GPTs and all this. This study basically wants to bring closer and kind of like break down some of the myths, right? And definitions and naming conventions of what this is all about, right? So what for you and me, we know, but there's many people out there who will be interested about it, in it, and they have no idea what a digital avatar is, what a digital interactive clone is, or where the differences are, or what is a persona, a clone, kind of like cloning the spec of an executive, not the people. So the idea is, look, let's the dust kind of like let the dust fall down and see clearly what this is all about. So you will see, the definition of a clone. What are the types? What are the categories? What are the uses for them? What are the components, right? Because it's not an email, right? It's something a little bit more sophisticated. How can you build your own? Who are the stakeholders? Who are the companies in the ecosystem that is before us and just forming, right? So just, I mean, there's like 34, I think, sections. I mean, if you want, I'm happy to walk you through. But the idea here is with this study to bring light, and if a company or an individual, wants to understand, they can just take it. It's kind of like a guide, right? So what do I need to know? Who can I go to? Can I do this? Can I not do this? That's kind of like the idea of the study.
So here on the Digital Doppelgangers, people are used to hearing me talk about this a lot. So
Right.
a lot of people are familiar with it, but some people are new. Let's just start from the basics. What is a digital clone? Because it can go in a lot of different places. It means a lot of different things to different people. It scares some people. How is that different from a digital twin? How is that different from an avatar? There's a lot of terms floating around that intermingle. Let's hear how you define things.
So I think, I like this example because I think it kind of like opened people's eyes, right? I think a few months ago, I think Reid, I don't know if you know Reid, one of the founders of LinkedIn, he came up with Reid AI.
Reid Hoffman.
Yes, Reid Hoffman, thank you. And basically it was like a wow moment, right? He was chatting with them, and at the end, if you read, if you were curious, you would learn that it was something different, from what it actually showed, right? But it
and
really
for people who didn't see it, he interviewed himself, what looked like a real-time conversation. Frankly, what I do all the time here on this show, he did it, but in the fine print, you found out, no, it was all edited together and sort of stitched together with a whole team of people. It wasn't a real conversation, but it did open people's eyes to the potential.
So the concept, I mean, what he did illustrating was the concept that it was, coming to fruition. And this is what we see today, and that some companies are doing. So a digital clone or a digital avatar, generically speaking, I would say is the representation of a person, a human person like you and me, in the video format, right? And then this is like the baseline. Now, what can this video do? And this is when it starts to get sophisticated in different ways. One is you will see companies like HeyGen, Synthesia, and a bunch of others that basically record you, they put you in, and then you can prompt the video, the avatar, to say things, right? And then you can do speeches and explanations about things and concept and trainings and all these things, right? That's one thing. But it's not simultaneous, interactively speaking, right? Something that you put the thing and then the kind of guy goes, right? What we're talking about when we mention digital interactive clones is the interactivity part. And not interactivity in the way that some courses do it, like, hey, you see the video and then at the end, hey, answer the question. That's interactive too. But what we're saying here is conversational speaking, conversational in real time, right? And this is what I think this is the key. This is the point, the critical point, the inflection point, call it what you will. This is what we had not seen before. We saw it when Reid did it, although it was not, let's say, truthful. Yeah, but there are companies right now doing it, and I think this is what what a real digital interactive clone is. The representation of a person, a human, right, in a conversational method on video to exchange information, and in some cases, transactional, let's say, capabilities, right? I don't know if you have anything.
If you have questions for Jose, you can type them right in the comments section. You can even join us on screen. We've posted a link. If you want to join us right here in StreamYard, you can talk to Jose, find out more about economy. And do you prefer economy, economy, or both? That's part of the magic of it.
Look, I got to be honest. I say either way. It depends. If I have my my American twang, I would say economy. Kind of like economy. If I go into it's like, no, it's not economy, it's economy. At the end, it doesn't matter. It's economy. It's you say fast either way. Yeah.
Now you just mentioned American. We should point out you're based in Brazil, in South America.
Yes.
And a lot of us Americans, we get into this sort of nasty habit where we think of, well, all technology people are either in Northern California or at least in the United States, and everyone else in the world is just taking our stuff as we hand it to them. How have you thrived as someone in the technology industry in other parts of the world? And do you perceive bias sometimes from ugly Americans like us.
I lived in the States in a few lives before. I was a young kid, 17-year-old at the time. So I don't know. It has a very nice place in my heart, So I have good American friends. So I don't. It's difficult for me to see bias, right? So that's
Okay.
I think the trick is really to see what is best in the places you are, and just enjoy them. When I came to Brazil from Europe, the first 2 years, 3 years, it was like, oh my goodness, things don't work here. This is all these challenges that in Europe you have taken for granted, and here I was looking only at the bad things. Once you start realizing the good things, it's like, hey, this is life. This is life is what happens while you're making other plans, and this is what happened to me.
Walk me through your sense of how you think the adoption rate is going to come with respect to clones, because I have some scars. I started doing online training back in 1998. And I
Right.
thought, wow, I'm going to be first to market. And when you're first to market, that's great. Well, no, when you're first to market, quite often you become roadkill. Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook is what, the 12th or 13th venture funded social media network. The VHS was not as good as beta, but it beat beta as a format. So I found it took me like 15 years of losing money with online training, video online training, before it really took off and became profitable. So here's where I'm torn. The part of me says, okay, TJ, yeah, that happened with online training and people getting used to it and comfortable with it. But times are different now because everything happens faster with AI. ChatGPT got 100 million users in 3 months. It took Facebook 5 years. A part of me is very optimistic, but there's another part of me that says this thing is so different that it's going to take even longer for people to get their head around it. Because at least with an online video course, there were previous iterations of that. You could watch an online course on a TV channel, a public TV channel. You could get a DVD. You could get a VHS video course. Those have been around for decades. So at least people realize, oh, it's kind of like that, but just in a different format. The concept of a truly interactive video-based clone, I find, kind of blows people's minds, and they can't quite grasp it. Now, if they get in and use it and experience it, yes. But there's a part of me that worries that, I'm going to be beating the drums for 19 years this time before it really takes off. Where do you fall on that divide?
I'm an optimist. I really like to see technology in general, right, as an enhancer of people's lives, and I think that's been true throughout all my career. I agree with you. I think there's a lot of ingredients, right? And let's say a reference that gets us today, right, and where we are. There's the pandemic. You mentioned in some of your previous comments. It kind of helped us go digital, right? And I think if I can tap a little bit into my own experience when I was doing AI here in Latin America, different to the other regions, you need to start with a pain point. I brought products that in the US would be focused on entertainment. It's like, hey, let's organize faces on videos and, see who's there and, get the story about the actor or whatever. And here it was like, look, I want to find out if there was a robber, a thief, coming into the store. And you see that where I'm going, right? So I think, in my view, I feel it'll be big problems that we'll be using this technology first. In problems, I mean the restrictions that we have today, right? Time and space for, let's say, in our search to abundance. And I think this is one of the moments. There's another paper that I wrote about abundance through the clones. And there's really, to get infinite time or very almost unlimited bandwidth of time, right? So if I had to give a prediction, which I'm not really good at, but I would say that we should start with the pain points and see where this technology can help us really solve those problems. And I agree with you. There's other fears, if you allow. people are thinking, oh wow, what's happening? It does. The clone doesn't have a
But I mean,
soul.
let's talk. Help me piece my way through this, because I'm certainly aware of pain points. I have people every day take my online public speaking courses because they feel the pain of, and they tell me this, TJ, I'm nervous. I'm not confident when I speak. I'm not confident going to this job interview. I'm not confident giving a PowerPoint presentation to my board. I'm nervous about pitching my startup to these angel investors, asking them for my first $20,000. So I know what their pain is. Right now, they either wing it and do a so-so job or a poor job and they just tough it out, or they take one of my online courses and that helps some, although typically they don't really practice enough and they don't record themselves and see feedback, or a tiny less than 0.01% will hire me for a day and fly to me or fly me to them. And then they get great results, but that's too expensive and there's just not time for the vast majority of the world. So I know what the time is. Some of those people are now coming into my clone where they can actually rehearse and get feedback. The problem is we haven't gone beyond the stage of it being sort of a curiosity. Now, my clone has been up since the last day of April, and the video part, I guess, for maybe 3 months now. So it's still early in the game, but what I'm noticing is that it's people look at it and they're talking to it, and I can see the conversations. The end, quite often, oh, wow, thanks, this is really helpful. But they don't come back. They're not building a relationship with the clone coach as a useful tool, the way they might be with a personal trainer, where they got to drive across town, change clothes, get into a gym, and have that coach say, all right, TJ, get on the floor and give me 20 push-ups. People are still more comfortable with that, even though there's all those hurdles of driving across town, parking, changing clothes to work with that kind of a coach. Here's a coach online that's available 24/7 in any language, in many cases at no cost. And people, I find, are often trying it just once. So your thoughts on what is it going to take for this to go beyond a mere curiosity?
So I think you touch on a few good points. Today, the alternative is still, I would say, affordable. Yeah, and in a way, it's like, look, I want to get the real thing, so I'm gonna go through all this, right? There is an interesting example in the study that talks about education, right? And I went into the numbers because I think this is a huge pain point that we as a humanity have. Education across the globe. There's about 93.7 million teachers worldwide. You say, okay, you do the math, 8 billion people, kind of, okay, more or less, the range of needing education. But at the end, it turns out that there's about 40 million teachers missing, right? So there's people who don't have either or, right? They cannot go across the street or across town, they cannot. So when a solution like this will be put in front of them, this will be the best alternative for them. So I think if I take this example and put it in the case that you mentioned, maybe your hour needs to be time X or 100X, in real life, so that they will say, okay, what is the next best option? And I'm just exaggerating. I'm just kind of like pushing it, to the stretch to see. Maybe, hopefully, we don't have to go that far because other drivers will come in. The adoption. I think the platforms have a role to play. Whenever they start, I'm thinking of LinkedIn, for example, or Udemy, or online communities that talk about tutoring. If these people start offering it as a feature, as an add-on, it may accelerate the adoption. And this is only thinking about the pain points of the learning of wisdom. There is another set of possibilities going into the entertainment that I think you just mentioned also in the study, right? And like, look, you watch the film, you read a book, and you want to talk to the author to say, hey, I have questions about your book. Imagine Amazon offering this. It's like, hey, I want to talk to the clone of the author. I have questions about chapter 3. I'm not sure what he meant. I think these will be catalyzers.
Which, by the way, sorry to be self-serving, but if people want to be able to talk to the author of a book and see how that would work, I've got an opportunity for you. My book right here is, you can see it right here, is this particular book right here, Building an Interactive AI Video Clone, Unlocking the Power of Personalized Communication. And if you buy this book on Amazon, it gives you a link where you can then ask me any question. It doesn't cost anything. And by the way, all of you shouldn't have the link by now anyway. It's simply tjwalker.ai. And you can ask my clone any question about anything in the table of contents of this book or anything about AI video clones that I've ever talked about, and it will answer for you. And I should point out the book is now available on Kindle. It's available on Kindle Unlimited. It's available on hardback, paperback, and is an audio download. And as of yesterday, it's now available on 57 different platforms for audiobooks, and we'll soon have it available on Barnes & Noble and every place. But we'll see if this catches on, because I am trying to make this a part of the sale of the book, that, hey, the book comes with its own clone. So if you get bored and you're looking for a particular subject and you don't want to read in a linear way based on what I thought it was important, you can just go to the clone and ask it questions. So that's, and we'll get sort of our commercial part out of the way right now. The only other thing, and I just clicked away the wrong page. We do want to give another plug for Jose and Economy's great new market study, AI-driven avatars, the market study. But the other thing I wanted to point out to you, those of you who are more excited about clones and thinking about how to create a clone, but you feel like you need a little more hand-holding than what some of the platforms. I do now have a couple of different courses on how to create your own clone. And these versions come with consulting time from me. So I know, I'm not a huge techie. I need hand-holding when I start to use something new. And now I've spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of trying to figure out how to make a clone, and just the nuances of how to make your voice sound better and how to not look like a stiff stooge on camera. There's a lot of subtleties there. So that's what you get in this particular course. So enough with the shameless promotion. Now, I guess at some point we'll have my clone come on and do the shilling as well to pay the bills. Jose. So Jose, you've had a chance to look at all the major platforms. Your survey covers in depth 15 different companies. And I noticed that you ended up making a clone with the same company I did, Delphi.ai. Tell us about your thought process of why you selected them and your experience there. And I do want to show your clone. We'll do that for the audience in just a moment as well.
All right. So I think one point that was clear is that the naming convention was not universal yet, right? So the search process took me left and right, up and down, and until you really find where you're looking for. Because interactive avatars, personal avatars, instant avatars, these are the names that some of these companies use. And after going deep, I realized that the one that had enough depth and what they were promising and they were closer to what I was looking for was Delphi. So, and this was for a couple of reasons. One was the back office, let's say the repository of content. It was well structured. It gave me good options, to upload the content that I wanted my digital brain of the clone to have. It was easy to handle and to update and all this. The others, it was not. I think there was a few that do offer the interactive clone as the one that Delphi does, but it was, I think we mentioned it yesterday in our conversation. It was like the initial date when ChatGPT came. It was quite general. in a way. It did the job, but it was quite general. So you couldn't really drill down into the type of content that you wanted your clone to have, right? So this was a bit tricky. So I think at the end, there was a platform product. There's another aspect that was support. I think support in general, the guy said, "Hey, Jen, do a fantastic job." They're quite quick. What struck me in Delphi was the personal people. I got emails from Sam, from Dara, like, "Hey, talking about support."
And these are the co-founders, the founders and co-founders of the company. And full disclosure, so I do use Delphi for my clone. I do use them as the reference point in my books about clones, but it's not that we're not founders, we're not owners, we're not investors in it. It just happened to be I couldn't find any other one that really did what I wanted to do as well, which to me, it's all about the interactivity. There's so many companies out there creating clones where you have to type in a speech or a script. To me, that's just completely uninteresting. By the time I type a speech, it's much faster for me just to hit record. So for me, that's a complete waste of time. What I like is the ability for the interactivity, so that someone at 3 a.m. when I'm asleep can call and ask me questions about personal development or habits or focus or communication skills. And much more than ask questions, go into a live coaching session where my clone, if they want to prepare for a job interview, can actually interview them for the job. Record it, give them feedback. That to me is what is hugely valuable, because that's why coaches get paid the big bucks in the real world. Someone who has theories about basketball can write a book and maybe no one buys it. But if you can actually coach someone, a team, to win a world championship, you're going to get paid $20 million a year. Coaching is valued in every culture. Simply answering questions, you get that for free for years on Google, Quora, Wikipedia. So I don't see the value in just having a stock answer for something. It's got to be interactive, because that gives the power to the user. That's my theory, and I know I'm preaching to the choir with you, but it does seem as though that gets lost. We have a couple of comments that go in. I didn't want to ignore them. Mary says people worry about the avatar is a threat to humans. How you guys can explain the benefits of using a clone? And that's coming from Mary. The concerns are very powerful with a lot of people. Barb also writes, Udemy student comments made in our Udemy student support group on Facebook can't be seen by you in the group. Please remind them how to come to your TJ Walker Success page to watch the live from there. Okay, so I must have done something wrong, and Ben is not with us now. So if you are watching this, you can go to my TJ Walker Success Facebook page. I believe the comments from there will show up. I'm not sure what we did wrong. You can always go to my YouTube page and watch and leave comments there. And that's TJ Walker Success on YouTube as well. So Barb, apologies if we messed that up. Let's deal with Mary's question, that people see this as a real threat to humanity. And I can't remember if you and I talked about this, but when the CEO of Delphi went on Fox Business News 6 weeks ago or so, I thought it was a pretty positive interview, straightforward interview. The host interviewed the clone, they interviewed the CEO, demonstrated it pretty well. And then I looked at the comments the next day. And there were 3,500 comments. 3,499 were all negative. They were all saying things like, these clones are a sign of the devil. This is the sign of the apocalypse. This person should be in prison. This person should be in jail. I hope these people are put out. I mean, it was brutal in the negativity. Right. And it was other than one person saying the host was good looking, off topic, everything was viciously, brutally negative. Now, part of it is that channel tends to skew in a particular negative direction. You can argue social media in general tends to the negative, but I've never seen negativity to that extent for someone who wasn't overtly talking about a political issue. Then you expect the negativity, but just a new technology. So share your concerns about how you think this is going to play out, and to Mary's question about how people see this as a real threat to humanity.
I think there is a conversation that kind of piggybacks on this general aspect or the sense of the comment, right? It's like, look, AI is going to take the jobs of certain people, right? And I think there's like, it's a threat. If you think about it as a threat, hey, this technology is going to threaten my job, my well-being, my source of income. So I get it, and you'll see people talking about there are already some positions that are in a way being replacing humans. Yeah, customer support is one of them. I think we're at a moment where change is happening, and I think people need to get educated about the possibilities of AI and also understand the myths. Right? I think there is a marriage in between humans and the use of technology that I think will make us stronger and bigger. Right? Mm-hmm. Threat. I think it's how can I say? I think it's too big of a word without context. TJ, I don't know if you want to put a little bit of a threat to humans. What is it? We're far away from the Skynet still, mm-hmm. right? I think there has to be awareness. There has to be regulations in place. There has to be privacy tools that keep, let's say, the rights of people using AI, right? So they need to feel comfortable using the technology. There has to be transparency. There has to be ways to control the data. There's a Privacy Act happening in Europe. There was a GDPR before, LGPD in Brazil. There's many things that are taking place, right? So I think if somebody's saying it's a threat without context, I would say we need to ground the comment, to be able to respond properly, because otherwise we're just going to be, I think we're just,
and I would say all technology is always a threat to people who don't adapt. I mean, there were 400,000 telephone operators in the United States in 1960. And a few years later, they were basically all let go. Now, they all found jobs because the economy was growing and many other things were happening. But they did lose their job because the technology got better. You no longer needed an operator to listen to someone and push a plug in here to connect. I've lost jobs because of technology. I saw a considerable drop over the last 10 years of corporations hiring me for a day of in-person public speaking. So I've lost a lot of work because of technology, but I also gained a tremendous amount of work because I adapted and I learned how to make online courses. Right. So my income continued to go up. It was just different. But people who didn't adapt did, in fact, see their jobs disappear or their income go way down. And that's been a function of technology. You can go back to the days of the loom and not having to hand weave everything. That's always been a part of it, but it is legitimate concern. And we should point out, what we're talking about here are digital clones. Now, in theory, as robotics get better, as 3D printing gets better, again, I'm not making any predictions. This may be 100 years out, but at some point you could push a button and something that looks exactly 3D like Jose or TJ pops out and talks like us and thinks like us. Then we've got some big issues to deal with. But right now we're just talking about something that would show up on a screen. Exactly. So I think that is a little bit less scary. Jose, I want to give people a chance to experience your clone. So let's take a look at it right here and talk to your clone a minute. And people who want to experience it, can access this on Economy, or should they go to, I forgot which website should they go to access your clone?
Right. So they can go directly to delphi.ai/Jose, or they can go to simply jose.chat. That will take them to.
And I have it on Russian, but don't ask why. I'm going to switch to English, and we're going to start the call. And if there is some kind of delay, remember, it's not Jose's fault. It's just that's the nature of these systems still. Let's switch over a little more here.
Hey, how are you? This is Jose's clone. How can I help you?
Hi, Jose. You're looking good today. Wondered if you could give me your top 10 predictions on how cloning technology is going to take off in the business world in the next 3 years.
Thank you, TJ. I hear that you're curious about the future of cloning technology in business. Here are some predictions. First, we'll see a surge in personalized customer service through digital clones, enhancing user experiences. Second, clones will become integral in training and development, offering tailored learning paths. Third, expect a rise in virtual influencers, where clones represent brands. Fourth, executive clones will handle routine tasks, freeing leaders for strategic thinking. Fifth, clones will facilitate global collaboration, breaking language barriers. Sixth, they'll provide real-time data analysis, improving decision-making. Seventh, clones will democratize access to expertise, making mentorship widely available. Eighth, they'll revolutionize content creation, producing personalized media. Ninth, expect ethical debates around privacy and authenticity. Finally, clones will drive innovation, pushing boundaries in various industries. These advancements promise a transformative impact on business landscapes.
And what's your prediction on who's really going to adopt these first? Will it be large corporations that see tremendous cost savings by not having to have as many people call their 800 number? Will it be the subject matter experts and the people that Delphi, for example, is going after? Who's really going to embrace this and use it in the most profound way in, say, the next 12 months?
I hear that you're curious about who will be Wallstack. I hear that you're curious about the profound adopters of digital clones in the next 12 months.
Yes.
Large corporations.
You think large corporations?
I hear that you're interested in, well, Ivan.
Okay, so this happens to my clone too. So we're not blaming Jose for that, but I thought the first couple of answers were fantastic. And I don't know about you. Someone asked me to list top 10. I'll start listing things, but I'm not going to remember, am I at 8 or 9 or 10? So I do like the way it can sort of instantly do exactly the number you want. And at least in my case, the clone does a better job of answering than I do. It's not worse. It's not the same. It's actually superior at sometimes. So what are your thoughts on what we just saw?
Well, I think there's a couple of, I think I agree with you. Look, this is because you're doing this at, my time is 10:50, but you could do this at 3 a.m., right? And he will just wake up nice and sharp and he will tell you probably the same narrative, in a very structured way, in the same conditions, right? So this is a 24/7 resource, right? I think, as we all saw, there is still room for improvement, right? Whether that can be the quality of the video, the language, the breakups. There are things that I think technology will enhance it and will get better. I personally think this is it's becoming, in a way, providing access to infinite resources of information. And I think we didn't have this before at scale, right? So I think somebody with the right mind, enabling technology like this to provide good, I think this is a fantastic tool. What do you think?
Oh, well, I'm clearly very excited about it because unlike you, I don't have some distinguished career in technology or technology consultants. I really don't know technology very well. My background is in communication skills. And to me, I'm so excited about this because I think it is the most profound tool to help humans communicate, certainly since the internet was created, potentially since the printing press was invented, to be able to scale one-on-one style conversations anywhere in the world, any time of day or night, in any language. I just think is extraordinarily profound, because I've seen firsthand the good and the bad of video community, on-demand video. Now, look, on-demand video has been very good for me. I have 2 million online students. It's, it's paid for a very nice lifestyle. So I don't want to sound like it's the worst thing in the world. It's been great for me, but there are extreme limitations with communicating with a recorded video, because it's one way. It's what I want to say, and here's my agenda, and you have to listen to me. And then you've got to either fast forward to the part where you want, or you got to look through a whole table of contents. And it's a very passive experience for 99.9% of my students. Whereas if I'm working with someone in person, one-on-one, it's supremely interactive. Everything is about them in person. If I'm working with someone through a live Zoom training, it's completely interactive. It's one-on-one. It's not me coming and giving a speech. It's we hop right into them giving a speech, recording it, critique, feedback, try again. And we do that 10, 12 times in a day, whether it's media training or presentation skills training. So what I'm so excited about with the cloning technology is it gets me back to where I started in my training business, which is truly one-on-one style, completely interactive training that's not about me giving speeches and lectures, although I love to do that. It's about being 100% focused on helping that person transform some skill to make their life much better. So that's what I see the power of these clones doing, and why I'm so excited about it.
I think I couldn't agree more. I think your case really is around condition, right? It can fully embrace what this technology can do. I think there is an aspect, that when we talk about all the positive, we tend to not say right now, and it's something that for big corporations and individuals to adhere to this is the financial part, right? These technologies are not as cheap as getting a private email, right? They come with some costs, and if you want to apply them into your business, you need to make sure that the unit economics work for you, right? So I think once, it needs to be taken into consideration, because it's not free, it's not infinite, right? You have some limitations depending on the packages that you buy. But I think this needs to be part of the equation to really take the full advantage of the potential.
Now, you did in your survey, let's give a brief plug again for your survey. And I know, someone like Barb who's watching would absolutely love to study this survey, Barb. So if you haven't gotten this, we've posted a link in the comments. This is it's an 88-page survey, tremendous research that Jose conducted, the AI-driven avatars market study. And in this, you talk about various pricing things. Now, the history of pricing and technology is always that the early adopters pay a lot. I'm old enough to remember, what was the name of that phone they advertised constantly in 2000? The Anywhere phone. It was this giant brick, and it was like $2,000 a month or something like that. And now you can basically call anyone in the world for almost nothing. And certainly if you have an old cell phone that you got for $20 and an internet connection, you can call anyone anywhere on WhatsApp for nothing. So the price always goes down. I certainly would anticipate the price going down on people's ability to create actual full-fledged video clones rather than just text or audio. But in your survey, what did you find? I know that the Delphi has some kind of free program. I don't know if that's just for text, but are you seeing any clone companies out there that are giving away free access to cloning capabilities, or do they all have at least one free tier where they're giving you a taste?
So they.
And by the way, I'm going to show people the list of resources. Do you remember what page lists all the?
I think it's
all
page
the different clone
64.
companies?
I think it is pricing overview 64. So what I've seen, TJ, is that some companies, they have like a full suite of services, right? They will give you free access to a certain part, in most of the cases, the digital avatars, they are not part of that plan. You would need to go into the premium to get access or to unlock it, right? So you can start building certain things, but what we just discussed, it's let's say deeper down the line, right? So it's not. You can do a digital avatar that's just static, like the way you describe it. You put text, and then it will
a text chatbot.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, I guess the point I wanted to get across is to people who don't have a client base or a business that kicks off a lot of extra cash for this, or an employer who will pay for it. There are ways of starting right now where it's just your time. And
Right.
I would certainly recommend to anyone who's forward thinking and planning for the future, start now, even if it's just a text version, to get into the game, because it's like a lot of things. Just you spend time in something, little observations come to mind. Think, oh, I can make this a little bit better, or here's a use. It only happens by getting in the game. It's what I stress to people for years with online courses. I've talked to so many people over the years who want to debate with themselves for a year about the perfect title of a course or the perfect camera to use. I'm like, just get a course out, learn from it, make another one. The perfect course title, that's going to sell well for you often only comes after you've done a dozen and you've figured out how to make 11 that don't sell well. Certainly that was my key to success. Is I made 250 courses and 225 didn't really do that well, but the 25 that did well did really well. And I'm not saying everyone has to have 250 versions of their clone or 250 clones, but start with something. Get in the game. Is there one from your own research that you thought is going to be the best for people who really don't want to spend money and maybe just want to get a simple taste of uploading? Let's have the case study of someone who's a consultant. They haven't written any books. They haven't made online courses, but they have been a guest on half a dozen podcast YouTube shows. They have recorded maybe 3 or 4 webinars so they have some intellectual body of content.
Right.
Is there one platform that you would recommend for them right now if they want to start, either for free or very little money?
So if they're just, kind of getting their feet in the water just to taste it, I would say HeyGen probably has the less friction in terms of costs. Also for the production of the clone, this would be, I would say, easier in terms of, hey, I want to upload the content, get my video, start, configuring stuff to understand the mindset of what these tools are all about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then if they get serious, then I would definitely recommend going into Delphi, because I think this is where the serious stuff happens in terms of content collection.
And I don't remember how they what do they get for free? And I believe there's also a program that's $29 a month that they could get on Delphi.
Right. Yes. I think it goes 29 if you pay monthly. If you pay yearly, it's about $20, 19 something. If you go to the advanced, I think it's 99. If you pay yearly, obviously you get a reduction. And then I think it's the Prodigy, which is the highest.
That's the $3.99 a month. What do you get for free on Delphi right now?
So I've checked it, and in the past they advertised it, but it wouldn't give in. At least I couldn't find it. I didn't get anything for free.
Okay, so that would be a coming soon. we got some more questions coming in from some of our colleagues. Barb is asking, do you feel threatened by your clone's abilities in any way as you are producing new online training videos? And let's assume that's directed to both of us, but I'll take a crack at it too. But Jose, first, do you have anything?
Well, I'm not, I think you can answer this better.
Okay, and also Barb says, I've been browsing Jose's AI-driven avatars market study while listening. Excellent work. So I knew Barb would like that report, and I've passed it on to a number of people as well. So it really is in depth, because this is something I study every day, and I learned a lot. So that's great. So Barb wants to know if I feel threatened. I mean, I feel liberated in a sense because it's giving me more power. Now, I have some new courses. I have one in particular where it's entirely my clone teaching. And I'm a little apprehensive, like, is this going to get trashed by people? Is this going to get horrible reviews? I was very careful to let people know this is taught by a clone. I let people know right at the beginning. So I'm not trying to fool them. And the course is very inexpensive. I mean, people typically, most of the time, they're paying $10. In some countries, they may be paying $5. And it has a lot of good content. So I used my clone to, so here's what I did, and I think people are going to do more of this. I did not just go to ChatGPT and say, write a course for me. I went to my own GPT, different from my clone on Delphi. I created a GPT. For $20 a month, you get in their program, you can create your own GPT. So I uploaded not 12,000 videos and books and podcasts, but I did upload my books, text documents into a clone, a GPT clone, just text-based. And then I asked my clone to come up with an outline for the course. And then I asked it to go ahead and write a script. Now it's pulling from my words, from my expertise. And then once I got a script, I then put it into my clone and said, make a video out of it. And it comes out pretty much perfect. And then I cut and paste and uploaded that. So did it really save me time? I'm not sure. It was more of an experiment I wanted to try. But I'm also in partnership with other creators where we have things entirely AI generated. Here's Barb, to answer your question more thoroughly. I think in the short term, and I don't know if that means 6 months or 47 years. In the short term, for people who are willing to learn, they don't even have to be tech geniuses. As Barb and others have heard me say, I'm a tech moron. I don't know what a gigabyte is, a Python. My brain doesn't process tech jargon like that. I think in the short run, for people like me, willing to read, type, and click, we will be able to use AI technology, generative AI, cloning technology in a way that will help us, help our careers, help our income, help us economically a lot. In the long term, again, when general artificial intelligence comes out, when it's so good, at some point, we're going to get to the point where a general AI is going to give such better advice than I would, or Jose, or anyone else, that it does become irrelevant. And there's not a lot of added value. And if someone could get coaching and critiquing 1,000 times better than what I can do, and for free by just going to one website, then I think it does put us out of business. But I think that is likely going to be many years. But could it be 3 years? Could it be 33 years? I don't really know. Ray Kurzweil, the author of The Singularity is Nearer, I mean, he's predicting that could be 2028, I think. So it might not be that far away. Barb also writes, I'm impressed by the quality of delivery from your clone. TJ, as you know, I listen to more Udemy courses than watch them. I glance at the screen for stats and demonstrations, but that's about it. Well, Barb, thanks for those comments. Our special guest today is the head of Economy. Let's show your website again for people who want to know more about what you do. It's Economy. It's just like it sounds. It's Economy and Clone together. ECLONOMY.com. For those of you listening on the podcast, we put the link in the show notes as well. For people watching live with us today on social media or on demand, you'll see that in the description and the comments and the show notes as well. Jose, tell us more about Economy. We do have a lot of people who watch this and listen to this who are always excited about what's new, how to help people, the intersection of technology and consulting and communication. Where do you see the biggest opportunities? I mean, what would be your advice to someone who is already, let's say, a technology consultant and they want to get into this? Where are the business opportunities, and where do you see your own business evolving over the next 18 months?
So I think that's a good question. I think there's opportunities where, in general, like I said from the beginning, it depends on the region. But I think, from my perspective, solving pain points. And sorry, just got interrupted here.
You sound good. I'm hearing you fine.
Okay, it's just another call got in. This is the problem of the multi-connectivity, TJ. So I think.
Well, let's make that a learning moment, because I'm breaking my own rules. I always tell people, you're doing a podcast, you're doing an interview, a media interview, don't put your phone on silent. Literally turn it off. And I broke my own rules. So I'm not chastising you, I'm chastising myself. So I'm going to do that right now. So I'm going to literally power off. Now I know I can give you 100% attention. Please continue.
Right. So I'm going to take the last word you said, attention. This is where this is what it's all about, right? To get people's attention. And I think individuals and companies using this technology to fulfill people's attention, this is in general where we're at, right? I think, and this can be transposed into platforms for online education, platforms like LinkedIn, where people basically, it's like a vitrine of their services. This is, you need to be creative right now through the AI capabilities, along with the cloning technologies and digital. It is, anywhere where you can reach a critical mass of people, right? When you have this window of opportunity and give your wisdom. I think, this going into what you said, you can be coaching, you can be mentor, you can be a teacher, you can be, online tutor, you can be, anyone who has knowledge, experience, and can pass that on to other people. I'd say, be creative and use this technology, because it has literally very few limits right now.
Mm-hmm. Tell me where I'm wrong in my prediction. I actually think we're going to get to the point where there are no online courses. Nobody wants a course. That things ultimately shift exclusively to a coach, a digital clone coaching. And right now, that's clearly not the case. People come in every single day to my online courses and buy it. And Udemy has millions and millions of students. So clearly people still like the idea of courses. But think of the number one soccer team in Brazil. They don't send the players to an online course on how to kick better. They don't sign people up and, we're going to go to this course today on how to block the goal. No, they hire a really good, expensive coach whose everything is 100% interactive with the players. They don't sign up their players for classes or courses on how to be better soccer players, because the stakes are high and there's money there. So get the best. I think the reason people take online courses and in-person courses and workshops is it's more efficient and it's more of a cost savings than hiring a one-on-one coach. But if you eliminate the problem of cost, why wouldn't everyone want a personalized coach? Steve Jobs famously talked about how Alexander the Great, he didn't go to school room with 20 other children. He just hired Aristotle to come and tutor him every day because he could afford it. And that's where I see this happening is, after a while, people want to use a coach. And of course, there are couples going through problems where they might read a new relationship book every week. But the more common thing is people read one or two relationship books. And then if they get a therapist, they'll spend a lot more money in 1 hour than they would on all the books they'd buy in a year. And they might go every single weeks, sometimes for years. People do that, whether it's a relationship coaching or a therapist, because it's seen as much more valuable because someone's actually or something is listening to you and interacting to you. So that's where I see this headed. What are your thoughts on that? Am I off base?
I think, again, you touch on a lot of good points. I think there are some differences in the cases that you mentioned, right? You're talking about elite sports. On the other side, you're talking about couples problems, right? Obviously, very different scenarios, right? And when he talks about relationships and marital relationships, you may have, let's say, privacy issues interacting with a clone of, something that is not a person. You can see who the data, goes to. These types of concerns that yet are not mainstreamed, right? This is like something new. I don't know, right? So I'm kind of like put off, right? But I think in general, I think you really touch on a very good point in the education. Why would you, it can break the paradigm of, why do we need education in the conventional way? Like, we all go to a class and you get one teacher doing the broadcast, all of us, right? Because in a way, the online courses are individual, but at the end, it's the same thing. It's like one recorded stuff to everybody, right? So I think education is one of the industries that will be revolutionized if certain criteria are met, right? You need to make sure that certain infrastructure pillars are in place, and depending on the region, they may be different. Technology may need to be adapted. I'm thinking about Africa. Maybe the wire lines for internet is not as good as in the States. So you see, there needs to be a little bit of adjustments in that. But I think education, anything that anyone can learn, obviously in that format, I think it'll be disrupted. Obviously, you touch a point on the sports, right? One thing is to have the coach giving confidence one-on-one and kind of like the team spirit, right? You may need to be in place. But I wouldn't see it so crazy to have like that coach sessions on one-on-one for questions that, hey, coach, you mentioned something in the session today. I want to, something different, separate. The team, one of the team members may not be at ease to ask a question to the coach. It's like, look, I have a problem, because they will know that digital clone will be the one of the coach. So I think there is nuances and specificities to be somehow polished. But I think I agree with you. I don't disagree generally. I think there may be things to consider in terms of law, privacy, these types of things.
Other comments coming in. A viewer says, we're in a time of awakening, just like where we were when the World Wide Web became accessible to the general public. I do see it as very similar times. Techies in general hate to sell. Their clones cannot be trained to be super salespeople. Maybe not. I mean, part of the value I see is any company having a clone, so that if someone is a prospective customer or just fishing around, they can find out exactly what they want to know, rather than having to wade through press releases and go through some lengthy FAQ. So I see it as hugely, hugely helpful in the sales process. And I think that's what's going to drive a lot of this, is companies are going to see an ROI in terms of increasing sales or reducing the need of having so many people man an 800 number. I think that's going to be an issue as well. Here's what I think might really kick this industry off, and maybe it won't happen, but imagine someone like Taylor Swift, arguably the most famous, successful, popular singer in the world today. If she were to have a clone and said, okay, you can hear me sing directly to you, where I mention your name in the song, and you can access me 24 hours a day. And I can even sing to you in your language, but it's going to sound like me. It's going to look like me. And you can pick the concert venue. And it's going to be $800 a month. I can't. People are willing to spend $10,000 to go to her concert now for one time. I just think she would possibly make billions of dollars from that. And that something like that might kickstart this industry in a huge, profound way because there would be such a demand for it. Do you see artists or singers doing something like that?
So it's specific. I agree with you. I think this could be a really booming industry, and especially because of the entertainment part and the emotional aspect of it. Where you would spend money on things that don't make economic sense in a way. Right? So I think this would be easy, or let's say, yeah, I think it will go for it. I haven't seen artists do this. What I have seen, though, I don't know if you're familiar with a platform called Suno.com. Suno.com is a generative AI on music. So basically, you will just prompt your way in, and you will just create songs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of skepticism, a few months ago, like the usual thing, the rights and the training, those types of things.
Yeah.
I think it was last week they released a piece of news where an artist, I'm not going to say the name, but an artist did a partnership with them and say, hey, here is my track.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's giving it fully or part of it. And he's making it available in the platform for users to build stems out of that track. So you see it pretty much goes in line with, hey, Taylor Swift will just put in generative AI, all her wisdom in terms of career, and hey, do the
there's no issue of theft or copyright there. If she's owning it, she's doing it for herself. She's making the monetary gains from it. It's there's no copyright issues at that point, presumably. Although I guess if she's making one song, I mean, my daughter, for example, is a huge Taylor Swift fan. So if Taylor's now changed the lyrics to say, and Rossa, you're the greatest, I guess there's still a copyright issue of her downloading that, putting that on Spotify somewhere and monetizing it illegal. There's always some way of cheating. I should point out, I just made a blunder. Barb had said that she said that clones can be trained to be super salespeople. That's a function of me putting my contacts in for distance and not for reading and not having my reading glasses on. So apologies, Barb. And she does point out it's Suno, SUN.com, the generative AI for music creation. Jose, we're about at the end of our time. I wanted to, again, spotlight for people who want to know more about you. They should go to economy.com. And they also, if they're at all interested in learning really exactly what's going on in the whole industry, they should download your market study. So I've read it now twice. And there's so many nuggets there. There's details, extensive table of contents. I want to stress, this is not something that was just thrown together in an hour and a half of giving a few prompts to ChatGPT. By the way, how many hours did you spend creating this?
Hours is difficult to say. I would say 2 to 3 weeks.
It's just extensive time. And I thought I knew everyone. By the way, interesting that you did that. I think it was smart. You gave credits to you because you did most of the research, but you also have your own GPT, and you also give credit to your clone. I think that's transparent and smart and interesting all together. And it's for people who don't know that much about the AI clone avatar industry, they're going to learn a lot. It will get them not only up to speed, but you're basically an expert on this industry because it's such a brand new, it's in its infancy. So by reading this report, you're sort of automatically in the know and can position yourself as an expert. I'm going through this quickly, not expecting everyone to read it, but I do want to give you a sense of how comprehensive it is and the fact that he really goes into the weeds. Synthesia, he talks about, Heygen, the deep brain, Veed, Colossian, which is one I've spent some time there. I've been to most of these websites, Hour One and Video, Unique, but some of them I haven't. CoachVox, you talk about some that have raised tens of millions of dollars and others that have just bootstrapped.
Right.
So it's all over the net. Since Synthesia has raised $155 million. Others, like Coach Fox, I think essentially they're not publicly disclosing, but I think they're basically bootstrapping. So you see everything in between, and you're able to get their head count, which I found very interesting. I had no idea that Synthesia had that many people working on it. And I didn't know Synthesis only had 4. I thought they were a much smaller company. So a lot of great information there, and we appreciate it. I'm TJ Walker. This has been the Digital Doppelganger section, or aspect of the TJ Walker Success Show today. Appreciate all of you joining us. You can always watch this on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, you name it. We are everywhere, live and on demand. Special thanks to Jose and Economy. We'll see you next time.